Okay, I'm back to talk about the last 3 episodes of Agatha All Along. I don't think I'll want to do these 3-in-1 videos again. This has not been fun. In fact, I think the only reason I got through them was because so little actually happened for most of this show, so there wasn't that much to talk about. And hey, that's one thing I can say about the finale. Some things definitely happened here, but were they good or bad? Hit the intro, and let's get into it. Episodes 7, 8, and 9. I know what you guys think I'm gonna say here, but I'm not gonna do that this time. Not completely. And that might come as a surprise, but this is what I do. I'm a tough critic, but I'm honest. If the show I'm reviewing does something good, I'll point it out. I don't have a problem doing that. Contrary to popular belief, I don't watch anything wanting to hate it. Yeah, the rage videos are what get the clicks, but I'd be much happier if I could just review stuff I like. I don't want that stress in my life, I really don't. It just has a habit of finding me. Speaking of which, let's get this shit over with. Starting in episode 6, there was a pretty big tonal shift where the show began to move away from the cringy musical comedy garbage and started taking itself more seriously. And the more that shift continues, the darker it becomes, the more the cast of obnoxious dipshits gets slowly whittled down, the better the show gets. God knows it doesn't become a perfect show or anything, there are still problems, but it does improve in the last few episodes, and that deserves some kudos. Another big factor is that from here on out, Agatha and Wiccan are basically co-leads. Hell, there are times when Wiccan feels more like the main character, and that also helps a lot because I don't hate Wiccan. Sure, he's got his own issues, but he's grounded and sympathetic in ways that Agatha just isn't. So building the narrative around him, frankly, just makes more sense. That's what it should have been from the beginning if you really think about it. Episode 7 begins with Agatha and Wiccan back on the road, and Wiccan wonders where Aubrey Plaza disappeared to, which is important because it shows that her just vanishing the way she did wasn't due to awkward reshoots. It doesn't mean the way she disappeared wasn't awkward, but at least there's a reason for it. The next test happens in some Disney-esque evil castle because Marvel's gotta remind us who's paying for all this stuff, and this time the characters are cosplaying as various magical witches from the silver screen. Agatha is the Wicked Witch from The Wizard of Oz, very on brand for her, and Wiccan is Maleficent. I guess because he's a gay dude, the writers thought that meant he had to be dressed as a woman? You know, if I were LGBT, I think I'd find that kind of offensive. Aren't we leaning a little too hard into stereotypes here? Whatever. This time, the test is tarot card reading. Beats me what the green body paint and the cross-dressing has to do with that, but whatever blows your hair back, writers. Wiccan tries to read Agatha's cards, but every time he does, a sword drops down from the ceiling. Something ain't working there, so Agatha takes a whack at it, and in true Agatha fashion, instantly makes things worse and nearly gets them killed because, well, let's not kid ourselves, that's the whole reason she's here. And then we cut to... for f***'s sake. Witch number 2 and diverse witch number 3 are still alive. Boo! 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 F***ing cop-out, goddammit. We were almost done with these annoying schmucks, and now you're bringing them back? Who was asking for this? Not me. At least this gives us a break from Agatha for a minute, but Jesus Christ, they really couldn't do that take-back fast enough, could they? Cowards.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
The two of them are in some subterranean tunnels where they wound up after Wiccan sucked them underground because the plot says so. And this is where things get weird because the writers pull this new plot point out of their asshole where witch number 2 is experiencing her life out of sequence, which basically means she's quantum leaping into her own body at various points from the previous episodes and her own past and future. This happened to her a lot when she was a kid apparently, but she put it away somehow because all she saw was death. But now it's coming back, which probably doesn't mean anything good. We see her in her own past talking to someone about how she saw her original coven getting wiped out by a fever and tried to stop it, but she couldn't change anything. I guess the message is that death is inevitable, but that doesn't track with what happens later, so I'm not sure what they're getting at here. And we're also experiencing these events out of sequence with scenes being shown out of order, so it's a little confusing at first, but we see that each time she had one of those weird episodes episodes, what looked like dementia symptoms were actually her making these uncontrolled leaps backwards. And this is an interesting reveal. The problem is, it was all random and never really gave us any new information or hints about what was to come. So, fun idea, but narratively kind of pointless. Also, it's not really how time travel is supposed to work in the MCU, but it's not like they haven't walked that shit back before. So they run and hide from the Salem 7 for a minute, but no need to worry about them because they completely disappear from the show after this week, and then she leaps into her future body after they've made it to the castle where the test is happening. They make up with Wiccan, who couldn't control his powers when he tried to bury them alive. Bullshit! And she remembers that she was the one who put the sigil on him because she saw who he would become and knew he would need time. But that doesn't make sense because Agatha sussed him out during their first meeting anyway, and it's not like the sigil did literally anything else. And just so happens that she's the tarot expert, so she takes over the cards. She tries reading Wiccan again, but it doesn't work. There's still swords dropping on their heads. Finally, she figures out that this is her trial, so she reads her own cards and comes to the revelation that she needed a coven, I think. The previous 6.5 episodes would suggest otherwise, but alright. Also, she leaps back to when she first fell into the underground tunnel and was greeted by Aubrey Plaza, who turns out to be Lady Death. Okay, interesting. Not really that surprising. I know some people have been predicting this. I thought she might be Mephisto in disguise or something like that, but it's kind of cool. And hey, at least Lady Death is a name I can remember. But apparently, Lady Death came to visit them and then nothing happened. She just did the reveal and left. Why would she appear to them and not do anything? I don't know. So they pass the test, a new doorway opens up and the others escape, but which number 2 stays behind? I think because she divined her own death, but the only reason she dies is because she stays behind. So if she just goes with the others, that doesn't happen. There's really no reason for her to die here, and the way it happens is so random. The Salem 7 come in, and she says that the rules of the road are that if you stay behind after you pass a test, something bad happens, and then the castle turns upside down. So they all fall up to the ceiling and get stabbed to death by the swords. And this was so completely out of left field that I didn't realize until I rewatched this episode the other day that the Salem 7 all died here. This was the end of that whole plot. A plot that started because of stuff that happened off screen, which we only learned about through exposition, and ended with the villains doing absolutely nothing except walking into a trap and getting killed. Thanks for coming, Salem 7. Holy shit, what a waste of time that was. That stupidity aside, this wasn't terrible. The storytelling is still flawed and has an annoying habit of telling instead of showing, but the show is starting to change things up. They're taking some risks, and this time the big death actually sticks. And it was artfully shot too. I liked how they did that. They also confirmed a theory I had after episode 6. Agatha all along is better when it doesn't focus on Agatha. By this point, the 2 least obnoxious episodes were the ones that focused on Wiccan and Witch number 2. And Agatha briefly changes that conversation in the finale, but it's kind of too little too late at that point. This brings us to episode 8, and let's try to speed this up a little bit because I don't want to be here all night talking about this damn show anymore. I think we're all kind of done with it. It starts with Lady Death collecting the soul of Diverse Witch number 4, who is not happy about any of this. Wait, that's it? That's all the time I get? No, I call bullshit! I broke the curse on my family! I'm supposed to get to have a life now! And yeah, I agree. You got a shit deal. It's almost as if your entire storyline was f***ing pointless and only there to fill time. Also, remember when your mom told you that the road would save you? Guess she was a f***ing liar because your ass is going to wherever witches go when they die. Gotta be better than Hot Topic at least. Then Death goes to see Agatha, and I gotta say, Aubrey Plaza is really good in this role. I don't think she blinks once in this entire scene. It is unnerving. They have a little chat. She says Agatha had been hiding Wiccan from her, which she really hadn't been if you think about it, because his resurrection in a new body makes him some kind of abomination that disrupts the natural order of things. Apparently it's okay when Death does that, but if it's someone else, big no-no. So she needs to take Wiccan, but she can't just take him because he'd reincarnate again. That's the rub. She needs him to come willingly. And Agatha thinks she can arrange that, but in exchange for the kid, she wants Death to leave her alone because, tragically, she's just not DTS anymore. Why you gotta be like that, Agatha? Honestly, this was a really good scene. It was dark, sinister, great acting. I got nothing to say here. But the story of Agatha trading her son for the Darkhold was apparently a lie that Agatha let people believe because the truth is too awful, which, when you get the full story, it really isn't. But the finish line is in sight, so let's just go with this for now. After wasting another couple minutes just walking around, they make it to the final test. And this one takes place in what looks like a high-tech morgue or something. Beats me what they're going for with this set. There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to any of these things, but at least there's no stupid outfits this time. Through the magic of lazy exposition, they find out that Agatha was the one who bound Diverse Witch number 3's powers back in the 1920s. Some asshole doctor paid her off and she did it to make a quick buck. Shows absolutely zero remorse for this, by the way. Of course, Diverse Witch number 3 is furious, and file this one under so f***ing easy it's downright silly. She rips out some of Agatha's hair, wraps it around her hands, says, "You have no power over me, you hold nothing," and bing bang boom, she gets her powers back and disappears. Because she got what she was after, which means she's off the road now. I thought they had to pass the final test before she could do that, but it seems this test is just figuring out how to get what they want. Whatever, she's basically gone now. And apparently there's no need for her to redeem herself for those 800 innocent people she hideously burned. I guess we're just forgetting about that. And that was another character and storyline that turned out to be completely f***ing pointless. We only got her backstory through lazy exposition in a couple scenes. Having no magic never stopped her from doing magic whenever the plot needed her to, and then she just easily gets her magic back in another exposition scene. And after all that nonsense, you won't even do us the common courtesy of letting us watch this character die? This show.
This experience has changed me. It's made me more cynical, more bitter, more jaded.
Because Wiccan's not a complete idiot, he doesn't trust Agatha not to kill him if he juices her up, so they do him next. They're gonna save Speed now, and wow, is that a lot easier than you'd think it would be. All it takes is Wiccan meditating for a minute, thinking about his brother, and transplanting the soul of Tommy from 3 years ago into the body of some kid who just drowned in a pool. That's it. That's the whole thing. And yes, apparently time travel was involved. And to be honest, this was so absurd. On paper, it really shouldn't work. But what saves it is the acting. I give credit where it's due. This is some of the best acting in the whole show. It's certainly Joe Locke's best scene. Him and Catherine Hahn really nailed this. They put some heart into it, made it emotional and genuine. Doesn't happen all the time, but every once in a while, actors who give a shit can make all the difference. So now it's just Agatha in there, and she doesn't know what the hell she's supposed to do, seems resigned to her fate, but because we can't just leave her in there, God forbid, she finds a dandelion seed inside that locket of hers. She plants the seed in a crack that opened up in the floor. A dandelion grows out of it, and somehow that does the trick? No idea how we got from A to B on that one, but she escapes right before the ceiling caves in and winds up in her own backyard. And because she reneged on the deal, Death wants her now. So Death spends a few minutes toying with Agatha while Agatha keeps trying to cast spells that she shouldn't be able to cast because she has no f***ing magic, even though she should because she passed the last test and absorbed enough magic from Diverse Witch number 4 to kill her, but it's just not working right now because the writers don't want it to. You figure it out. But Death is stopped from killing Agatha because we really can't have any nice things when Wiccan appears in his pretty comics-accurate costume, actually. And credit where it's due, the kid makes a good entrance. I'm still calling bullshit on him pooning the personification of Death itself, but Wiccan being stupidly OP is something I'll need to come back to in a minute. Agatha did help Wiccan save his brother. He kind of owes her one, so he bites the bullet, gives her the juice, and she gets her magic back. It's not gonna do much good, though, since they are facing off against one of the primal forces of the universe, and Agatha's under no illusions about that. She knows the two of them are pretty much though not necessarily in the same way.
Giggity.
For some reason, Death is in a charitable mood and has now decided that she only wants one of them. Agatha knows they can't win this fight and thinks it should be her, probably the first selfless thing she's done in the whole show. Naturally, that won't last long, but Wiccan's feeling self-sacrificing too, so when he offers to give himself up instead, Agatha has a change of heart and she's all, Yeah, it. Take him. I don't need this shit. Plant some azaleas on your way out, sluts. And it's not clear if she means it or if it's a ruse. I kind of think she means it because that's just who she is. Welcome to Agatha Harkness. She's an evil bitch. But then Wiccan throws Agatha's son's name back in her face and she's like, oh, damn. I'm supposed to be the hero, aren't I? So she decides that she's DTS after all. She makes out with Death and dies. Yes! Then Death just lets Wiccan leave, and I don't know how we're gonna resolve this issue of him being an abomination that upsets the sacred balance. I guess we're just sweeping that under the rug next to Diverse Witch number 3's 800 burn victims. Great writing, Jack Schaefer. You really tied up every single loose end, didn't you? So Wiccan goes home, cleans himself up, and then he starts noticing things. Things in his room. A Wicked Witch figurine, a Ouija board, a painting with a view of a beach house, and my ass, are we about to go head first down the rabbit hole with this one? I'll say this. Even though there was a fair amount of stupid stuff and a number of things that don't make sense, the second half of this episode was probably the best work the show produced. They ditched all the campy bullshit, got dark and dramatic, let the actors do their thing, raised the stakes, finally gave the title character a tiny speck of humanity, added in a little comics accurate stuff. I know, right? And just like that, for a scant few minutes, I didn't hate myself for watching it. Low bar? Yes. But they took a step in the right direction here. They pretty much ruined that in the finale though, so let's not put the cart before the horse. Episode 9 is weird in that episode 8 was the real finale, whereas this is kind of the epilogue slash sequel bait. And it's pretty unnecessary too. They could have just cut the show off at episode 8 and you wouldn't have known there was anything else. And it's not like there were a ton of huge revelations in this one. There were a few, but a lot of it was just confirming stuff we already knew or had already guessed. A big chunk of this is a flashback to 1750 where we meet a pregnant Agatha alone in the woods and going into labor. No idea who the father is, though there's a weird comment about her making the baby from scratch, suggesting that he may have been conceived through immaculate conception. I guess that's the only way a lesbian could have a kid in the 18th century. Who knew? Anyway, there's something wrong, there's complications, and the baby isn't gonna make it. Death arrives to take the child, but Agatha pleads with her. If you do this, I'll hate you forever. Please let him live. Now, you'd think that wouldn't be allowed because it would upset the sacred balance, which according to Death is a really bad thing, but she takes pity on Agatha and bends the rules to give the baby more time because, you know. So unless I'm misreading this, and I might be because they don't really explain it, an agreement is silently made between them where Agatha murders other witches and, I guess, feeds their souls to death in order to buy her son more time among the living. That's basically how Agatha and the kids spend the next 10 years. And the really funny part, I don't know if it was meant to be funny, but it was, is that the Witch's Road was never a real thing. It was just a bunch of bullshit the two of them cooked up to con witches and lure them into a phony coven so Agatha could suck them dry. Giggity! Not like that. But they did this for so long that the Witch's Road became this urban legend that people came to believe in anyway. So this means that all the times when the show was punching us in the face with that stupid cringy song, it never meant anything, it was all complete nonsense, and anyone who fell for it was a giant f***ing sucker. Oh my god, it's like the Ralph Boner gag all over again. They bend over backwards to make us believe something only for it to be a massive troll job. I actually give the writers respect points for this. Love it or hate it, when they set out to troll the audience, they f***ing commit to it. But Nicky Scratch is never really at ease with killing all these witches. It starts to make him feel bad, he doesn't want to do it anymore, so Agatha says they can take a break from killing for one night, and that's the night Death takes him. And I don't know why that's supposed to be more awful than the lie she concocted about trading her son for the Darkhold. It isn't. The truth makes Agatha look like a mom who would do anything to save her son. Yeah, she did horrible things, but what more sympathetic reason could she have? Her using that lie doesn't make any sense. It also makes you wonder where the hell her hallucination from episode 3 came from because the Darkhold never factored into any of this. And there's other stuff that makes less sense now too. In an earlier episode, Agatha said that Death didn't give her anything, she only took, which is also not true. Death didn't take Agatha's son, she gifted him 10 years of of life that he shouldn't have had. She wasn't punishing Agatha. She gave Agatha special treatment that no one else would have gotten just because she cared about her. And all that after Agatha seemingly cheated on her to get knocked up in the first place. Unless that Immaculate Conception thing pans out. So the only way Agatha's animus towards death makes sense now is if Agatha is just a completely self-centered narcissistic asshole, which she is. So I guess they plugged that hole at least. Man, Death must have a huge self-esteem issue to still want to stay in this relationship. All she does is give, and all Agatha does is take. Poor girl is getting used and abused here. Anyway, Agatha did genuinely love her son, and you do feel bad for her in this moment, which is something the character desperately needed, but the writers ruin it immediately. Because the second the kid is in the ground, Agatha goes right back to murdering witches to drain their magic. And no reason is given for this. It's not to save her son anymore, he's gone now. So the only thing that makes any sense is that she's doing it just to gain more power. And that right there pisses away any sympathy we might have had for Agatha. She doesn't need more power, she's already got plenty. Before, she was doing the wrong thing for the right reason. Now she's just doing it because she's horrible. And the bitch of it is, this story could have worked with one little tweak. Agatha thinks that if she gains enough magic power, she can somehow bring her son back to life. That you could understand. That you could sympathize with. But no, she just wants more power because she's a loathsome piece of shit. And that's always who she was. Now she's just a loathsome piece of shit who happened to love her son. And sorry, that doesn't cut it with me. I need more than that to get behind this character. But it seems like Jack Schaefer really does want Agatha to just be some reprehensible asshole, which would be fine if she were a villain, but we're also meant to think that Agatha is kind of the hero of this story, and she's just not. She's not a good person. Her doing the right thing one goddamn time so Death would take her instead of Wiccan after all the shit she did is not a redemption arc. It's Agatha getting what she fucking deserved after hundreds of years worth of atrocities. And that brings us to Wiccan, because from the very beginning, this Witch's Road narrative apparently only happened because Wiccan unknowingly created the road with his powers. Yeah, without even realizing it, he somehow did this Franklin Richards horse hockey and conjured up a batshit alternate reality or pocket dimension that the whole story took place in. The entire thing was just pulled out of Wiccan's butt, which really just makes Wiccan a walking plot device. If he can do all this stuff, creating alternate dimensions, telepathy, kinda sorta time traveling, transplanting souls into new bodies to defy death herself, he's basically a god. He can do anything the plot needs. And mark my words, that is gonna come back to haunt the writers later. Because ludicrously OP nonsense like this is exactly the reason why Captain Marvel doesn't work. One of the reasons anyway. Because if a character can do anything, then there's nothing that can challenge them, so everything is too easy for them, and they get really boring really quickly. Then Agatha pays a visit to Wiccan as a ghost. Yeah, she's a ghost now. Even though she's dead, she hasn't crossed over to the other side. So even after all the shit Agatha put her through, Death is still making special exceptions for Agatha because she just cares so damn much. Death. Sweetie, I just want to say, you have a VIP seat in the Supportive Girlfriend Hall of Fame, and Agatha Harkness does not deserve you. You can do better. Holy shit, just think about what that means. Anyway, Billy's horrified by what he's done. If he created the road, that means that he killed Kitty Foreman and Witch number 2. Not Diverse Witch number 4, though. Agatha killed her. He didn't realize what he was doing at the time, but they are dead because of him. And I like this. This is the reaction a good person should have in this situation. But Agatha, being Agatha, just hand waves it away like, no, you didn't kill 2 people. You saved 1 because Diverse Witch number 3 made it out. But no, that's not what happened at all. He endangered 4 people, 3 were killed as a result, and 1 happened to survive on account of her having the most plot armor because she's black. Don't try to gloss that over. Consequences are a good thing. That can make for a better story and a better character. And a character as goddamn ridiculously OP as Wiccan is going to need stuff like that. And the show ends with Wiccan going back to Agatha's house. The passage to the road is still there for some reason, and he tries to perform an exorcism to banish Agatha to the afterlife, but she refuses to go because she can't face her son after everything she did. Beats me why. She hasn't done anything that she didn't do while he was alive. Though if I were Nicky Scratch, I'd find the dog murdering hard to look past. But of course, a ghost resisting an exorcism because she just doesn't want to go makes no sense. So the only logical explanation is that Agatha has Death, aka the best girlfriend ever, to thank for this. You've got some groveling to do, Agatha. You lucky bitch. So this is gonna be a thing moving forward because now we're stuck with Ghost Agatha. Lucky us. So Wiccan seals up the way to the road with a gravestone for Kitty Foreman, Witch number 2, and Diverse Witch number 4. I hope none of them had families who are wondering where the hell they disappeared to because they're likely never gonna find out. And Agatha and Wiccan go off to search for Tommy. To be continued in the Vision Quest show, maybe? Who the hell knows? There was a stretch during these last few episodes where the show was getting better, but then the finale just dropped all that goodwill they'd built up into the toilet. So what we're left with is 5 atrocious episodes, 1 that showed the possibility of some improvement, 2 that were good enough to convince me that the show still had a pulse, and 1 that was almost good until it took a stupid turn and pulled the plug on the whole thing. It did nothing to convince me that Agatha is a good protagonist. She isn't. Catherine Hahn is great, but the character doesn't work in that role, and this just drove it home. The whole point of the flashback was to make Death out to be the villain and Agatha the victim, but it actually did the opposite. Death bent over backwards to cut Agatha a break and went against the natural order of things just because she cared about her, and then Agatha ended up looking like a monster anyway. I don't know why the writers keep trying to swim against the current with Agatha. She's the bad guy. Just embrace it. Outside of Agatha, Wiccan, and Death, all the supporting characters were just there to fill space. The Salem 7 subplot was completely pointless and went f***ing nowhere. The pacing was bad at the best of times, and the writers did seem to start trying harder towards the end, but it wasn't enough to save this. If Agatha all along did one thing okay, it was being a decent introduction for Wiccan and Death. They're the 2 people in this whole mess that I wouldn't mind seeing again. But they've already planted the seeds of Wiccan's downfall too, because if he's gonna continue being this OP, the writers are gonna find it very difficult to tell good stories about him. I mean, if in the character's debut, you're already making one of the biggest mistakes with him that doomed Captain Marvel to failure, then I wouldn't hold my breath waiting for this guy to catch on. And if that's the biggest accomplishment Agatha all along can boast about, I think the writing's on the wall here. Thanks so much for watching. Sorry this video was late. While you're here, ding that bell icon and follow my social media so you can always be notified when I upload new stuff. The link is down there. And most importantly, do all the other YouTube things. Hit that like button, leave a comment, share the video, subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you're still subscribed, and I'll be back with more real soon. Take care, stay tuned. I'll see you next time.